How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Today's actually a heartfelt episode of Tier Talk. It's going to be a little emotional, because I was a little emotional, and that's why I have Connie Alleyne on. Connie, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Everybody say hi to Connie, the softer side of Tier Talk. Connie, let me tell you something before we go to our sponsor, kind of introduce what the story's about today. I was driving home from work the other day, and I got a Facebook message from somebody. No need to say his name. He has a dream to be a full-time jailer. Unfortunately, right now, he is just a part-time jailer. He wants to be a full-time jailer. And he has been doing his best to really step up and really embrace that role. I mean, this is a dream for this gentleman. And he finally gets the offer to have to work by himself, which is what he wants in booking. And this is something that he wants to do. And right when he's excited, he's getting ready to do it, a supervisor calls him in that he respects. And the supervisor asks him, "Hey, do you think you're ready to do this?" And he goes, "Yes, I'm ready. I've been taking notes. I'm ready." And then unfortunately, the supervisor says, "Well, unfortunately, your peers don't think you're ready. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to give the shift over to another individual. And, maybe next time, but as of now, your peers feel that you're not ready." And then when I looked at the video, you could see that this gentleman's heart was broken. I mean, he was devastated by that. And he said he wanted to reach out to me because, first off, he trusts me, but he felt that he couldn't tell his wife because he didn't want to tell his wife of his failures. And that really, it broke my heart. And immediately I called my Tier Talk people, called you, called William Young, and you guys were nice enough to send this video over, which was amazing, which really meant a lot to him, by the way. And we're going to break into how that made him felt, or how that made him feel. I apologize. But I also want to discuss this in a more general fashion as well, because I'm sure there could be other people that are going through this, and I don't want them to have that perspective that they're failing. That's what really got to me out of the whole dialogue. So when we come back from our sponsor, we're going to dive into this heartfelt discussion, but I also want to bring it up in a general manner because I have a feeling that he's not the only one. And I'm not going to say his name, obviously, but sometimes you need someone to say a story like that or share that story, because then you start to realize, wow, he may not be the only one. So you never know who's going to be able to take from what we're going to give today. So when we come back from our sponsor, we're going to dive into a very heartfelt topic today, and hopefully we give some advice that people need to hear. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor. And when we come back, let's have this great and needed discussion.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Guys, inmate manipulation is a course that is highly needed. It's the process that's so slow moving and subtle that you don't realize it's happening. When inmates choose to manipulate, they manipulate our need to react. Situational awareness and insight is going to save your career. It's going to save you from doing foolish things. Listen to your gut. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. If you allow an inmate to pull you out of your prescribed role, you are opening up a door for a host of problems.
Inmate manipulation, the psychology behind inmate manipulation. Available now. Link in description. All right, we're back. Hey, Connie, you mind introducing yourself again and the podcast that you do, just the success that you've been having lately?
Hi, so I'm Connie Alleyne. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. I also host a podcast, The Fly Behind the Wall. We are now in season 2, just recently released, I think on Monday, it was episode 5 of season 2. And then I started to do something called Conversations with Connie. It's on my website, www.conniealleyne. That's really where I answer questions that people have sent me emails asking. And this week I kind of talked about, someone asked me about, how did I start the business? What was the process? And I was like, somebody really wants to know that? I mean, just because I think there's so much information about how you start a business out there. And, anyways, I answered the question the best way I could. So there's 30 minutes of me explaining my process and my journey of sort of how I went from the LLC and all the other technical things that are on the business side of starting a business, which is not always nice and pink and fluffy and fun. It can be really tough and taxing, I think, just trying to figure it all out to make sure that your business is positioned accordingly. So, so that's what I'm doing. But my training is out there. So Civilian Corrections Academy is out there, and I am so grateful for those who are signing up online and taking courses and the feedback and all that goodness. So it's fun. It's good times.
Yeah, I'm glad you're being successful. Obviously, there was a need for it, and I believe that what you're providing again is helping our facilities run safer. So I'm glad that there's people that are watching these videos or connecting with you on LinkedIn, notice that it's needed. I mean, this is high level management knowing that it's needed and then giving you a call to try to see what they can balance out. And don't forget, guys, tomorrow, every Friday, we release a podcast. It's called the Tier Talk Podcast. It can be found in multiple venues, but it's distributed through Law Enforcement Today. And it was me and Russ, he's my co-host. We actually had Connie on, and we talked about law enforcement morale in today's day and age, just the divide, I guess. Very, very good dialogue. We were actually going to do it again on Tier Talk, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think what we have on the podcast is just spot on, and I don't think it's something that we want to even make the effort to try to replicate. It was just, because we had no idea where we were going to go. So the conversation itself is extremely unique, and I don't want to make a sequel. Sequels are never as good as the original. So if you guys want to check out that dialogue, it's deep. It gets released tomorrow, Friday, which will be June 26, 2020, in case you're watching this, a lot later. All right, so Connie, I sent you the video of this gentleman, and you saw the heart. You saw this guy. He was emotional. He felt that, even though he respected the supervisor, you could tell that when the supervisor said, hey, your peers don't think you're ready, you could see that this gentleman's heart broke. And then at the end, he tells you that's his dream to be a full-time jailer. At this point, he's only part-time. But what did you get from that video?
Oh, boy. So watching the video was really tough. Aside from just the emotional side and seeing the disappointment, seeing, almost like someone took the wind out of his sail. It was like he was built up to know he was finally getting this opportunity. And then at the 11th hour, it was kind of just taken away. And so I could really relate to that feeling. I think we've all had disappointments, in the workplace or outside the workplace, right? In life, we've had disappointments, but when you're really looking forward to something, certainly I can see how he really was devastated by the news. I don't recall, maybe you do, if that information was delivered on the phone or if it was in person.
No, I believe he said the supervisor called him in. I'm going to assume he saw him in person.
Yeah. So, I think certainly if it was in person, I appreciate that conversation, particularly with him, was in person as opposed to it being over the phone, because, hopefully that supervisor had the emotional intelligence to kind of be able to talk him through that decision. Because I know he gave you a quick synopsis of what happened, but, my first thought was, how was this delivered to him, especially knowing that he was really looking forward to this. So there's got to be some sensitivity, I think, just in general, as we approach, situations that we know would be disappointing when you deliver the message. I don't know. It was a lot, just, because really it was 3 minutes, if that much.
Yeah, it was It was 3 minutes. And you know what? When I got the message on Facebook, you're able to call the person. You could click on the Facebook message and they'll do like a Facebook call. I had to call him because after I listened to the message, I was going to type something back to him. But then when I listened to the message, I heard him say that he didn't want to tell his wife of his failures. And to me, I was like, this is totally the wrong way of looking at this. And I'm not going to be able to express that through a text message. I'm going to have to tell him where this is a learning process and that you can't be defeated by this. Because to be honest with you, my concern is how you carry that perspective with you, what was given to you. I mean, you don't want to carry that negative perspective, especially in this career. You got to be confident, and I don't want that to kind of start him down that path where, when he starts to try something new, he becomes less confident. We want to be able to motivate him to explore. And I thought that when he said that he didn't want to tell his wife of his failures, I just saw a bunch of roads that he'd be on later, even in his career, that just would have limited his potential for growth. And that's why I called him. And then that's why I said, you know what? I don't think I'm enough. So that's why I called you. That's why I called William Young. And those videos, they meant the world to him. They really did. But when he said that, when he said about, not telling his wife of his failures, what did you take from that?
I mean, honestly, I looked at it like, is he going to be okay? Right? Like, because he seemed to truly internalize that. It wasn't just, this was just a disappointment and I'm going to move on. It felt like this was a disappointment and this was like the end of his world almost. And it was a little unnerving kind of watching that, and even just the emotion. And I understand, like, we all have different ways of coping. And in this sense, maybe he just needs to develop that particular skill. Like, how would he deal with like bad news? How would he, cope with a disappointment and being able to express those feelings without feeling like I'm no good? Like, it was almost like personalizing that now she's going to know that I'm a failure. And, I just felt like, no, this doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that this particular opportunity is just not the time right now. But that time will come and he'll be able to do that, once he continues to grow and develop, I think, in the profession.
Well, I mean, a lot of people believe failure stops. Like, failure is a stop, and it's not. It's actually could be a growth if, being constructive with it. And again, I didn't want that perspective to stop him from wanting to grow. And that's what kind of, when me and you were discussing on the, the way home from work, that's what kind of talked into this dialogue. I was like, you know what? Now, if we got this message, he may not be the only one. Because as I'm actually sharing some of my experiences with him, I'm thinking, well, I've actually had these experiences, and it really does depend on the person that's giving that message to that individual who may be lost at that moment. Are you giving that message with a positive spin that encourages growth, especially for someone who wants it that bad, or are you cold to it? So I'm thinking that the dialogue that we're having today is both how you receive the message, but also if you're that supervisor in the position to give that message, not realizing that there could be some people that really will internalize that and really start to question themselves and their ability to maneuver in unique situations that could be where they want to grow, what they want to explore. And you never know, like that supervisor right there that he spoke to, thank God he does have respect for the supervisor, and hopefully the supervisor was able to break something down for him to encourage him. But that supervisor may not realize how important it is on how he delivers that message. Like if you want to encourage this individual, you got something that's tough right now. You're going to have to balance the negative and encourage this gentleman to grow amongst, you telling him that he's not able to do something, and it's very tough. So I thought we could first talk real quick about the person delivering the message. So if you were the supervisor and you had an employee that had a lot of potential, has a lot of potential, has a lot of potential, you see that they try, but maybe, even though they're trying as much as they could, they just can't get to that level. They just, maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't just catch on as quick as others. And they start to see that, they start to see that people in their classes are moving up further and, further ahead, and they're still behind. And now there comes a situation where, the person has to be told that they're not able to do a certain job? How do you give them that negative news, but still, invite them to, hey, this isn't the end. This is where you actually begin your growth. So what would you do if you had to deliver that to one of your nurses who had the potential, but just not at that moment?
So I think when you're delivering that kind of news, you actually have to know the person a little bit, right? Like you've got to know their drive, their goals, the things that they want to do. That way you can craft that messaging in a manner that they would receive it well. You don't want it to be that you're just coming in, going to shut down somebody's dreams, as opposed to being that manager who's going to do your best to still provide some encouragement to highlight the positive things and the positive things that they bring to the job. Because, you are going to come across people who their skill sets are simply just different. Some people are more skilled than others. Some people are more talented than others. Some people just pick up on things quicker. Some people are a little slower. And so sometimes part of that discussion is also a development discussion. So here's some things I think we could work on to get you where you want to be. And you have to be willing to take the time to give people that kind of feedback, because otherwise they won't know. Like if you're the manager and the person is kind of looking to you for guidance, like you're the one kind of responsible. Once you've delivered the message, you can give. So here is our moving forward plan. So I know you're really interested in this thing. Let me show you how I can help you get there. I'm going to partner you with this person maybe twice a week or something. Like there's creative ways. I think that once you deliver the message, that you could still be supportive in that person's growth.
Well said, Connie. I also like to think, in a management position, like me being a higher level position, I don't want people to dread seeing me. So I want to make sure the interactions we have, even if they have a hint of negativity. What was that?
They don't want to see you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Connie. That's true right now. But let's just say in a perfect world, then. You know what I mean? Let's just say in a perfect world. All right. So, and I deserve that, Connie, because my wife's been telling me I've been so harsh to you lately. And she goes, one day she's going to get back at you. And she did. She did just now. And I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to edit this out. You're going to have your moment. You know what I mean? But I'm going to tell you something, Connie. That day I'm on your podcast, that day you finally put me on, I'm going to host. Listen. I'm not going on as a guest. You're going to introduce me. I'm taking over the whole show. I'm taking over the whole show. You're my only friend, Connie. You're my only friend. I have nobody, Connie. I have nobody. No, so you hit. That was a deep one, Connie. That was a deep one. Time does not heal all wounds.
Yes, it does.
What was my okay? So well, I do want people. Let's say I want to be constructive with people. So when I do have that interaction, I don't want them always to see me that, oh, Ganji's calling up because it's got to be something. No, I try to be balanced. And if it's we talked about this. If someone's if the intent is good but they make mistakes, that's a chance for learning. Constructive. But here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of employees that, especially when you get to the higher up, that they're going to come and go, and you may not really get a chance to know them, right? But I think there are some that stick out to us only because we see their effort and where they want to be or what we expect them to be. So there are certain people that stand out because of how hard they're trying, if that makes any sense. And you could see the struggle, and you invest your time in them. You give them expectations, and you see that you try to meet them. You see that they try to meet those expectations, and unfortunately, sometimes situations gets the best of them, and then you work with them, you invest with them, and you try to understand their perspective, because sometimes situations could be unbearable, and it's not so much the individual, but just the situation, and you give them that level of expectation. Now, I would like to assume that you're right. You do know some of your employees. In this case here, I think this employee would stick out for me. I think I would know this employee because right off the bat, I could see his heart, and heart-to-heart connection. I'm going to remember who you are for the rest of my career and beyond that, obviously. So the thing is that I'm going to invest time in this individual. And I also want to make sure that if I invest time in building this person up, and then we come across a crossroad where I have to be responsible for giving this person what they could perceive to be as negative news, I have to do what I can to encourage him or her to look past that negativity, but in the process, still give this person the power to be, you could be a leader one day, or you can, do what it is that you want to do, but you just have to get past that moment. So I think the key here as a supervisor is if you relate to that individual, the funny thing is that you giving them the negative news is actually a gift for both of you, believe it or not. It's a gift because first off, it's you and you know him. But second off, even just for you, it's a way to keep that investment into this individual. You know, it's a way to say, okay, this is one of the negative moments, but this is where I have to make sure that if I got this person on this path, that I'm not going to say anything, or I don't want to be responsible to tell him that all these expectations I provided to him to reach to are not attainable to him. Nope, that's not good enough. You know, that's where you failed. You have to give that person, listen, I know I'll never be perfect. I know that, especially after just what you said about 5 minutes ago. But the key here is what helps me out is that I can always strive to be perfect, you know, and that kind of gives me the top of my game, you know, so never tell me that I can't be perfect because now you're limiting me as to what I want to be in life. So you got to remind this person, but still try to be perfect. Still do what you got to do. And it kind of gives them that infinite outlook that I could be what it is that I want to be. So again, if you're a leader or you're a supervisor in that position, you know, do what you can, please, to nurture the growth of that individual who really wants to be in that job, because that's the key. They can learn the job easily, but the heart that I saw on that video, you can't learn that. That's just someone that has a very simple wish in life. And the last thing you want to do is to discourage that wish. Now, talking about now kind of fast forward a little bit, we'll cross perspectives here and we'll talk about the people that have to receive the message that don't know how to take it. So with that said, I will kind of cross back into what we said earlier, seeing that message as being a failure. You know, if you were the supervisor and after you said all these things to be constructive, you know, before you delivered the message and the person, you know, sees that as they're failing at whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish, now, you know, how would you go about and change that individual's mindset to make sure that they know that it's not a failure, it's positive, but also what would you do to, I don't want to say test the individual, it's not what I'm looking for, but what I was always, let's just do it this way. What I was always taught, because remember, we don't script our dialogue, and I have a thought here and I just can't get it out. What I was always taught that if you feel at something big in life, you know, maybe you should start looking back at the little successes that you're having. So I think part of the dialogue with this individual is if they see this as one big failure, you as a good leader should also remind that individual of the little successes that they've had that's brought them to that point where we're even considering you to be alone on that post. So how would you change that mindset of that individual who sees this not as being constructive, but as this is the end, I'm failing?
Well, I mean, that's the opportunity, or that's the time that I think as a manager that you have to be intentional about your engagement with that particular employee, because you understand that the impact that the news actually had. I think when you talked about being able to sort of highlight those little victories over time, I think it's a matter of you kind of reinforcing that employee and giving them sort of those kudos from time to time, because you know they just had something that kind of set them back. Not to say that, you know, we're supposed to walk around giving everyone pats on the back, but we also know that when employees are recognized for the good work that they do, that employees are simply more productive and more willing. Like, acknowledgement is a significant morale booster, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. And so the fact that you would take the time to kind of, as this person does have these little victories, kind of just highlight them and just give them that extra word of encouragement, because you know that they need it, right? And I think that over time, you may start to see some shifting in the person's behavior, or there's a point where you're like, oh, okay, they're finally kind of back to normal. Because you could also see the impact when they first get that disappointing news and sort of how they carry themselves for a little while. And then there's a point where you may see the behavior shift a little bit. And I think, you know, if you're being present as the manager, like, you are probably going to take some time when you see that they're still kind of holding on to that disappointment, to be like, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. How you doing? You know, because I think that those are the things that are needed to kind of help boost them again. Let me help rebuild that confidence. And I'm going to be intentional about those efforts to rebuild that confidence, because specifically in our line of work, the last thing you want is someone who's not feeling confident on the post. The last thing you want is someone, a nurse, who's no longer feeling competent in her nursing skills to be providing care, right? Because now I'm reviewing clinical notes. Now I'm double checking, or even their partner no longer has the faith in them that they once had, because the partner sees the difference in the way they're performing too. So I think it's one of those, you got to kind of monitor it, but you also have to be intentional about engaging that person and making sure they kind of get back to where they were and help build that confidence.
You know, he did mention that the supervisor told him that his peers thought that he wasn't ready. So as a supervisor, I may ask his peers, what is it that you feel that he's not able to accomplish, and then be able to talk to him and have him focus on those areas that the peers may feel. But I also think, and let me ask you on this, the moment he mentioned that the supervisor said that his peers are not, don't think he's ready, you think he also feels embarrassed?
Yes, I think so. One, I don't think that he should have ever said that his peers feel that way, because I feel like it's almost him not owning the decision to take him off of the post. And I think that is a significant way that he's undermining himself. But also, here it is, the bad news, and I want your peers to have responsibility for that bad news, as opposed to me as the manager owning that bad news. So I don't agree with even the mention of it. You know, even as a manager, you can say, you know, here's some things I observed. You know, I'm a little hesitant to put you on post right now, but here's what we're going to do moving forward. You know, because he's going to want to know why, right? Because you already said that I could do it. Now all of a sudden, why I can't. So, you know, you put the peers in a bad space too, because now I'm sure they feel bad too. I mean, they want him safe, which I think is really where the concern comes. They want him safe. But I also think that now that you've kind of thrown the peers in the mix of the game, here's that sort of, I don't want to say strife or discord that could be brewing, because now my peers think I don't know what I'm doing.
You know, I love what you said, because when I teach the inmate manipulation course, one of the things I talk about is the external justification versus the internal justification, especially when you have to make a choice or decision of conflict. You know, the weakness would be the external side of it all, where, you know, I'm sorry I had to do this, your peers, as opposed to the internal, where it has to be done because I've been reviewing your stuff, and these are the things that I've noticed could be improved. So you're right. It actually started off, and I wasn't thinking of that, but hey, that's why we have these dialogues. It actually started off as a very weak justification on the manager's fault when he said that you weren't ready because your peers. That you're right. That shouldn't have been done that way, because that also could be very, very divisive. But now, if you think about this, he also may go around now not trusting his peers, because my thing is like this: if you really trusted me, you would have told me that I wasn't ready. You know, and you would have helped me become ready. You would have done what you can to help me become ready. So, and the sad thing is, I know it's a part-time position, so I don't know if they compete to be hired. Like, you know, I got to make money, and I don't want him getting hired. Let me do. So, you know, I don't know if there's a competition there to work for the day. But having said that, you know what? You're 100% correct. When the manager did that, the supervisor did that, that's divisive. I believe a little bit weak. Because again, they're not justifying it in a manner that says I'm making this decision 100%, and it really makes the individual doubt the relationship that they have with their peers. Like, again, you could have told me, and you didn't tell me, and the fact that this employee was shocked when his peers said that. Like, you know, managers told me, hey, my peers said I wasn't ready, and he's like, oh, like it blew his mind. Like, no one came up and told him, or no one made the effort to teach them. And I think that's a great point. That's actually something great that you brought up, Connie.
But I think also too, the fact that he's part-time, and he said that he was doing transport. So his relationship with his peers may not be the strongest already, because he's part-time and he spends that time out of the facility. And I feel like, you know, throwing the peers into that too also creates a broader divide, because on top of me being part-time and spending most of that time out of facility, you're telling me that the little bit of time that they've been able to see me, that they didn't have something positive to say, you know? And I think that too is where that feeling of failure and, like, you know, that disappointment really gets fueled. It's almost like another jab almost to, you know, just the confidence, the ego, just everything. It's a lot.
Well, I mean, think about this from the adverse. What about if they're telling them that, hey, you're doing great, you're doing great, you're doing great. And then, you know, managers telling them you're doing great, you're doing, like you said, you know, you're doing great. And then all of a sudden this happens. It's a harder fall because you're actually telling this person they're doing great when maybe they aren't at this point. And now the person's on this level where, you know, they think they're good. And then you just come out of the blue and tell them you're not ready. Whoa, wait a second. You just told me I was great. You know, yeah, well, no, you have to be honest. You know, if the person has, you know, room to prove that, because I'll tell you something, that's where I think that if you encourage the growth at the, you know, throughout the duration of this person working, that's better than just always telling the person you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great. You know, you could tell them, hey, I like what you did today, but let me give you some more constructive stuff. You know, let's make it constructive until I feel you're where you need to be. This way, if someone comes out and says you're not ready, it may not be as detrimental to them because they're figuring, well, I'm still learning anyway. I'm good. Let's keep it going, because the environment is learning. But if you keep on saying you're great, you're great, you're great, this person may feel they're at that level. And then when you tell them they can't do it, you know, they drop. I mean, very hard. But now I also told him, now we'll go to him a little bit, is I said, listen, I know it's going to bother you. It's going to bother you probably. It shouldn't bother you more than one night. I'll be honest with you. You know, once you really sit down and think about it, because I'm going to give you some positive advice here. One of the things is that they just told you right now that you have ways to improve. So they pretty much said, hey, this is, you know, what you need. I'm hoping they tell you this is what you need to do to be able to work that post, to secure that position. So what I would do then is I would go back to the supervisor and said, they said I'm not ready. I would show them the immediate heart by saying this, then make me ready. What is it that I don't know that I need to learn? You can't just say I'm not ready and give me no direction. You know, I need to know, because I said, here's what you got to do that will alleviate some of the ambiguity, if you will, is I could tell you that you're not ready and then leave it there and you have no way to fix it. And that's a problem. That's going to bother you. But if I say, you know, you're not ready, but these are the areas, okay, that's fine. I got a goal now. I know what I need to do. I know where I need to be. I'm not kind of scrambling. So I'm able to focus on where I need to be. And then I think that shows where I can actually grow, have more potential. And I think I'd be okay with that. So I said, the problem is right now, do you know what your issues were? And he talked about booking, but he wasn't really certain as to what the issues were. I said, well, that's the problem. The problem is they kind of told you that you're not ready, but they're not telling you what it is that you need to do to fix that situation. So now you need to go back, show them your motivation, and say, then make me ready. And then see exactly what those areas are. Now, I will tell you one thing. If they can't pinpoint those areas and they can't say that, well, if they can't pinpoint those mistakes you're making, now I think that's where the BS is. Right, Connie?
Yep. I'm like, that's the problem. Because, I mean, the first thing I'm thinking is, so, you know, he did mention having his notebook and taking all these notes and such. And I feel like, you know, if he can go back and kind of highlight, if they can say specifically, so here's the areas where we think you need to work on, and he can go back and fill in the blanks, because it doesn't look like he's not just taking notes and leaving the book. It sounds to me like he's taking the notes and he's like, this is what he's relying on as his reference or his guide to help get him through his responsibilities. And I think if that's the case, you go back and say, hey, you know, what is it that I'm missing? I agree with you. Like, if you can't tell me what I'm missing, then I think that's where the problem comes. But it seems like maybe he may need some coaching on just how to advocate for himself, because he may not necessarily know how, or may not have the confidence to go forward and advocate for himself and ask those questions, right? Because like you and me, we think like, okay, well, what do I need to do to fix this, right? He's probably thinking like, this is my supervisor, maybe I can't ask, or this is someone I respect, maybe it's not appropriate, or if my peers feel some kind of way. So like there's all these factors that could be feeding into this almost defeated space, as opposed to this, okay, so you said I'm not ready. What do I need to do? Let me know, and then show me, right? I mean, but it sounds like there could be some staffing challenge, and I don't know necessarily if there is a way for him to be able to shadow someone or really work closely with someone so that he could truly learn how to do it.
I promise you right now, as you were discussing it, I don't know what it was in your dialogue, but we're both you were leading me there as well. So I think as you were saying it, we both were being led to that. I was actually just thinking that, you know what, one of the things is that we don't work alone. So let's just say this hypothetically, right? There are going to be moments where we are going to have, I remember when I first started the job, they kind of just, hey, Gans, this is what you got. But I had resources. I had a training officer that was made available to me. I can make phone calls. And, I remember doing my very first count was so nerve-wracking because I didn't know where they could be. I knew I had these inmates that were out, but I didn't know the locations that they could be at, and inmates were telling me, that's a food service. I was like, yeah, but you know what? Hold on. I don't need to go to you. I got my own resources. But one of the other things I would do is, let's say I was higher level management, right? And again, you're right. You don't know the staffing concerns. But if I was a supervisor and the peer said, let's say I thought that, they thought he wasn't ready. As a supervisor, tour the unit more then. If you usually tour a unit 2 to 3 times a night, probably 2, then tour 4 to 6 times. Check on him, because eventually he's going to have to be going on his own. And the problem is I think maybe part of this is, don't get me wrong, I know there's inherent risk to this job, but I like to feel that we can balance that. If we have somebody that's new, you have support staff that can balance, what those risks are. That's what we're there for. People are going to be new. They're going to make mistakes. You know what I mean? But you create a buffer for them. And as a supervisor, if you felt like, another way you could have done it is if the peer said he wasn't ready, then what you could have done, maybe you say, well, you know what? Let's talk about what it is, what the concerns are, and let's see how we can make him ready. Instead of just automatically, not letting him work the shift and maybe hiring your boys. I don't know. Maybe the supervisor is playing a little bit of the game. I don't know. I'm trying to be, objective perspective. And we gave him the fair shot, but let's look at the other side of things, Well, let's make him ready. You know what I mean? So, you know what? I'm working that night. I'll visit him on these times when you feel he can't do these things. So when you're saying that he's not good at booking, I'll make sure I make a trip over there when we have a new inmate coming in, and I'll oversee him doing the booking. What else do you feel he can't do? His count, not a problem. He does the count 2 or 3 times a night. I'll make sure I get there and check to see what's going on with that count. Or if need be, I'll get an officer that can obviously assist. Because at that point here, instead of them telling him no and not letting him grow, you're going to put him in, but support him, support the growth. And again, it's not that I know it's a dangerous job, and I'm not saying it's always a risk, but that's where you're there for. That's what custody is there for. You do what you can to cushion that, but eventually the person's going to have to work on their own. So I like what you said, man. He could have created a little bit of a balance to give him a chance to nurture, as opposed to just telling him no.
But then, so I'm going to play a little devil's advocate for a second, right? So here's this manager who has someone who has some sort of challenge, right? And I get it, as an institution, we are equal employment opportunities. We provide equal employment opportunities, right? And so here's someone who may have a challenge, who I'm afraid of the liability of having that person on a post on their own, right? Like, I don't know if that is something that would come into play in the decision to put that person on post alone, or if it's just, okay, well, he thinks he's ready, we're gonna let him go. Like, is that something that you factor into that decision? I don't know.
All right, let me. I'm actually ethics. That's what I do. So let's do this. First off, he's put in the position, correct? He got the job.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming he got the job with no restrictions, right? So if you feel that he's not ready for that post, and it's based on a certain thing that could be a protective category, that's a very tough justification. What I would try to do is again, this is a person that has heart. What I would try to do is I wouldn't leave them alone. That's why I don't like it. It wouldn't be like you go right and be by yourself, because I don't like, you know what, when you think about it, I don't like the fact that he thought that. I don't like the fact that this officer felt that he would be alone. It's never, even when I'm working in a unit, I'm not really by myself. I have the support. So I don't know if the person's put in that position, right? And they passed the psych test, they did everything they had to do, and the state says they're fit for that position. It's a hard battle to say that they're not, you know? Now, don't get me wrong. There are people that just aren't. And then that's where the reports come in and the discipline comes in. And you got to have that track record before you actually start to say that this person cannot do that job. Yeah, you have to have a history, and you're going to justify the history as what's stopping you from putting that person at that post, you know, or whatever.
But you're also speaking, though, from a place of experience, right?
Yes.
And so with your experience and at your level, you understand the whole ethical matter.
There's two.
Right. So like there's things that I think at different levels in our careers that we just understand, right? And we're also giving this manager the benefit of the doubt that he understands ethically where he should be on this issue. And he understands from a management perspective how he could support this individual to actually grow and be productive and be reliable and all those things that we want from an employee. And so part of my challenge is that here it is, you have someone who's showing you all the good stuff that they bring. And I just can't imagine that we're not taking advantage and cultivating someone in a positive way that isn't jaded, who isn't like burnt out or beaten down. Like this person is excited. This person is like, I want to do this. I can't wait for this opportunity. I've been waiting for this opportunity. So like, you know, it's a tough one, you know?
It's tough because there's two, again, being the administrative side, there's liability. One is the employee's rights and what could be seen as discrimination right off the bat. So not having the person able to work that post, again, there has to be, again, I'm talking about when it travels up, when it goes into the court system. Immediately, everybody thinks, oh, we're good. Not eventually. You know, eventually as it starts to travel up, there's going to be someone that's going to see it differently, and that's when you have to justify it. So, you know, to have that person, one thing is to not give them the chance, knowing that you have support. Because I would say this, well, you know what, guys? You have support staff that can help. So whatever the areas are, because also that's a good thing to know at that point, if the support staff still can't help him, then maybe he's just not ready for the job. But unfortunately, I don't want to say there has to be a trial by error, but he's already in. He's already in. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? He's already in, and they're already saying he's good to do what the job is. So now you're selecting the post that this individual could be on. So you know what? It can go either way. But if you look at it from the legal perspective is you're going to have to give this person a shot. You're going to have to be there if they have questions or concerns. Because at the end, what I would say is if we went up to the highest level and I was defending this employee, one thing is we all make mistakes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you automatically assumed he was going to make a mistake. You haven't validated why he wasn't able to work the post. Well, because I thought he wasn't ready, but you haven't showcased that. Plus, you haven't showed any effort, like you said, to cultivate or nurture him into becoming ready. Now, granted, that's kind of what the disciplines are, believe it or not. The disciplines are constructive by nature. They're meant to teach until the point where I just can't teach you. Now I'm covering my ass by just getting rid of you because I've tried to cultivate. I tried to teach you. Now it gets to the point where I have to write you up and have to get you out because now you become a liability because you're just not getting the message. In this case here, this person, you know, whether it's punishment or not, I wouldn't go that far, but you got to give the person a chance to go out there, get the support, but also it also gives you an idea of can this person do it or not, and then you can also start building your justifications for either continued training or the sad thing is removal. You know, if that's the case, but you're not giving yourself. And also, I'll say another thing though too. What are you saying about the other jobs he does?
Right.
You know, I mean, are you telling me, because all jobs are, you know, important. So if you're telling me he can't handle this job, then you just admitted that there's a flaw in this gentleman. You just admitted that you have a concern, but yet you're okay with putting him somewhere else. So that to me could be a concern, because now if something happens, you as a supervisor knew that he couldn't do this specific position. That's why I said when you're hired, you can't really cherry pick. That's why I don't like these agencies that don't let the officers go to the academy first. When you get behind that wall, you're certified. Whatever you got to do, you got to do it. When you have these places that don't go to the academy first, the officers don't know, or the supervisors got to know, well, you could do this, you could do this. Oh, you can't do that. It becomes too hard. So now you just admit that this gentleman has a flaw, but you're willing to put him next to me, or you're willing to put him on a transport. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of liability there. And by the way, this wasn't prepared. This just kind of crossed into that. But when you bring ethics, that's what we're administrative. You know, you have to think 6 levels up. But do you have anything you want to say in closing, Connie?
I just want to say, I think aside from us kind of having these discussions on the fly and really just coming up with like, this is what our experiences have been, I think we try our best to be as objective as we can as we look at these different situations. And there are so many directions that we could go in the conversation, but I feel that particularly in this case, it was such a small video for us to be able to extract all of this. I think says a lot about what we know about our system. But I think it also shows that there are very simple decisions that are being made that people don't really understand all of the implications for those decisions. And so I would just say to anyone that's listening, know your policies, know your procedures, don't just throw the employee handbook on the side, right? Because many people don't. Whatever you have as a reference that can kind of help you navigate these waters more appropriately, please don't hesitate to read them, because you will need them at some time in your career.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I live in, it's nighttime now. It was daytime when it came out. I want you to know that. But then somehow or another, the sun went down and just got dark. It's chess versus checkers. I think when you're the higher level, you see 6 levels deep, where, if you're playing checkers, it's more reactionary. But, when you gave that question, I liked it because I didn't know that you were going to give that question. And you actually had me sit back now going right into my professional side of me thinking like, okay, well, I'm not even thinking from his perspective. I'm not even thinking about the manager's perspective. I'm thinking about being the liaison. If this employee now was to challenge that by saying I'm not ready, because that could have been a route that I didn't even think about taking, because I'm thinking automatically about safety and security. Don't get me wrong. But as this dialogue, it built, we also talked about how we could kind of cushion and help. Now you have an employee that could possibly be discriminated against, because again, when he got the job, the job should say that you're able to work these things. And then when you're told you can't, sometimes you have to justify it. But again, we gave all perspectives of this dialogue. So just engage in conversation, whether I agree 100% one way. I don't think it's meant to have that. I don't think it's just to put the ideas out there, give those honest, objective perspectives. And at the end, the people that watch it, they make their own decisions as to where they feel best lies. Because again, my opinion really is, what is it worth? It's just to really give you the, enough information so maybe you can make a real good informed decision. Now, guys, don't forget, check out the Tier Talk podcast. It gets released tomorrow. Connie's on it along with Russ Hamilton. Very tough topic. Law enforcement morale, especially in today's age with the divide. Don't forget, also, if you get a chance, Connie's got 2 podcasts out there. Connie, can I get the names again?
The Fly Behind the Wall and Conversations with Connie.
Yes, and guys, I got to say something, guys. I just want to make sure you know, Conversations with Connie is not Connie talking to herself. I want people to know that, because I started getting worried about it, because I started thinking, well, maybe you can talk to yourself as long as you don't answer to yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually maybe check Connie's emails to make sure she's being asked questions, or is she just answering herself? Because I'm going to tell you something. Connie. No, this is payback now, but I'm going to tell you something, Connie. Conversations with Connie, when Connie's alone in the room, and there's nobody talking to Connie, it's a pretty unique podcast. But all jokes aside, guys, one of the most informative stuff, if you guys are civilians or if you guys are in custody, it's such a wonderful perspective. It's something that's not really heard, has to get out there. And besides being the pioneer for that, actually, takes a lot of courage. You know, your understanding of both sides, I mean, just passively what you picked up is really what developed into this beautiful both podcasts, and just taking the time doing it to make our, you know, you're kind of doing a custody thing. You're trying to make it safer. So I think we would appreciate that as a profession. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. And as always, guys, please stay safe.